says that we're live. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's stream. So it's a bit different from the Daily Goddard. Tonight I'm joined on the stream by the fearless, fantastic and brave Tracy Blackwell. And tonight what we're going to be discussing is the Justice for Our Boys case, as well as the previous 2.5 years. The whole time that Tracy's been active. The reason that I'm doing this, well, myself and Tracy are doing this, is because there's quite a lot of people that are new to this channel that perhaps aren't familiar with what happened to Josh, Harry and George, and I feel it's imperative that everybody knows about this tragic story so that we can rally behind Tracy and justice for our boys, because at the end of the day this should be a cause that unites everybody, no matter what your political opinion is. 3 children have been murdered, justice hasn't been served. I'm not going to focus too much on the detractors and people that have tried to ruin this, because they're simply not worth it. All I will say to people is, please listen very carefully to what Tracy is going to tell you this evening. She is one of the most honest people I've ever met in my life. She didn't decide that she wanted to get into activism. She was forced to get into activism because of what happened to Josh, Harry and George. So like I said, if you can all do me a favour, there's quite a few filling up in the chat. If you can all do me a favour and give this a share, we need as many people as possible. And yeah, I'll go straight over to you. So evening, Tracy, thank you for coming on. I know these things are quite difficult, but I know that we have to get this message out to the masses. So thank you for coming on firstly.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me on. Just to say, I think I was talking to Dave Simpson, who's in the chat the other week, and I got totally cut off, thrown off, even though there was nothing wrong with my internet. So if that does happen, I will come straight back. So yeah, thank you for having me on tonight, James.
No problem. It's my pleasure, really. I'm just going to give a bit of background for people that probably aren't aware in the chat. So, and then obviously you can go on to it. But what happened? Josh, Harry, and George, they were murdered as they made their way to a friend's birthday party. Now, ever since that day, there's been a coordinated effort from the CPS, from the Met Police, and genuinely the establishment to cover up what really happened to the boys. There's been misleading articles from the mainstream media, smears from the police, as well as smears from all manner of people that haven't done their jobs, basically. And it's the fault of the Metropolitan Police. It's the fault of the authorities down in London. Now, you, Tracy, you've been especially for the past year, the past 2 years. In fact, I know it's been horrendous for you, and I can't imagine what you've been through. I've spent a lot of time with you. Well, it was 2018, 2019, and it ripped my heart out to see what damage it had done, not only to you but also to your family as well, and also to the other families that have been involved in this. So I guess the first question that I wanted to ask was, for the people in the chat to know, is at what point did it become clear that the authorities that were covering up what happened? Sorry if the questions are difficult.
No, it's all right. I've had to continually speak about this and relive this. It'll be 3 years in January, because obviously it was covered up, and I've been out there fighting. And on that route to fighting, I've come across many other things out there. But going back to your question, it was on day 4. So this happened on a Friday. And it was by the Monday late afternoon, when I went round to visit George's parents, Cole, and his stepmum, Stacey. And it was during the course of us having a chat, and George's dad telling me about the court case in Uxbridge on that day, and about a phone call he'd received from a copper not long before I arrived at the house. And discussing that, and discussing, because we all had the same liaison officer. The liaison officer come round our homes on the Sunday. This happened on the Friday night. The liaison officer didn't come round until the Sunday. And discussing what she had said, that we'd start realising that things didn't add up. They didn't add up to what they'd told us on the Friday night, which was hardly nothing. What the liaison officer told us on the Sunday, each of us separately. And then the discussion in the house with George's dad, Cole, late afternoon on the Monday, and the phone call from the copper that happened just before I arrived. So it was on the Monday we started realising things didn't add up.
So that was within. So the incident happened on the Friday, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So within the first 3 to 4 days. Now I know a lot of. I don't want to come across because I know a lot of the answers, but I'm trying to get it for the audience that are watching that might not know. But have any of the none of the police officers or people in the authorities, they've never apologised to you, never offered an olive branch out, not an olive branch, but they've never tried to help you, really, have they? They've always been against you and the families.
It's always been about concealment, because this is a massive cover up. It's massive, because not only what happened to our boys that I keep reiterating and I say most times is not an isolated case. This has been going on a long time in this country. So it's not just the fact that they don't want our boys highlighted. They don't want all. It will open up a doorway, not just to hell, but to all the other cases that have been going on in the country. The police, in the beginning, just added to our trauma. They still add to our trauma to date. You know, they ignore emails, they lie about emails, they get someone else to answer an affidavit that is an affidavit of truth, and that's fraudulent in itself, because it has to be the person that you've done the affidavit about to answer that affidavit. So everything we discuss, or I've ever discussed, has always been backed up by factual evidence that we hold and that we have. We're still fighting to date for the rest of the data in our boys' case. So we're still fighting to that. You know, to get into court, we need everything. Yeah, and they keep writing many different reasons of so far of why they're not handing over, that they lawfully have to hand over. So yeah, there's still a lot going on and everything else. Can you just remind me a bit of your question, James?
Yeah, so it was just to go back. So just to clarify, none of the police officers have ever apologised or ever tried to help you.
No.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. And just to also clear up something else as well, because I know this is going back to last year as well. Now, when they did that hit piece on us, on the Yellow Vest activist on BBC Newsnight, I remember that Katie Razzle was in correspondence with myself at the time about me going on to be interviewed by them. Now, what they did, they've lied about, because the way that they've tried to portray it is that the three boys were stationary at the bus stop and the driver went into them and it was an accident. And there's a lot of people out there that have not all of them, but some of them have believed the lies from the mainstream media, but it's how they do it, isn't it? Because they want to feed people information with bits of misinformation, which is what I remember you had always told me. And there was the question that I'm getting to is because the solicitor that they got on at the end was trying to discredit everything that we'd ever said. Now he lied and said that the family had apologised to you and the driver had shown remorse. I'm sorry, I know it's not the nicest of questions, but he's never showed remorse, has he? There's never been an apology from the family or from the driver.
No, there's never been a thing. And in fact, well, of course there wouldn't be an apology for something that you did deliberate, but there's never been no apology. The whole Newsnight thing was a complete lie, and it was all the opposite. And that's what you have to remember, even with the media, it's all the opposite. That's where you find the truth at, yeah, not what they portray it as. You know, and in fact, at the Old Bailey, when they was going to give out the one they claimed was the driver, and I'll say that for now because we have no proof in anything we have that he was ever the driver. So the one they claimed as the driver, his family put forth through the defence that they'd been threatened and things like this, and they didn't want their address out. Now that was also a lie, but they also the police officer, because that's what they're acting under. They're not acting under constables, these people, stood there and said, no, they've given them all these special numbers and all this special equipment, and they're down that if they call that we get there first. Nothing towards us, nothing but trauma. I remember the liaison officer on the Sunday asking, and she obviously had asked the other families this as well, not just me, whether I wanted any medication. And I said, no, I don't want any medication at all, thank you. Within 2 days, I mean, one of the parents did take that offer up, but then after a week, she then stopped that because she knew, hang on a moment, this is stopping me from seeing what's going on. This is clouding my thinking. It's bad enough as it is trying to deal with that trauma of losing your child. But I didn't do that. But a few days later, I get a phone call from the doctors asking me if I want medication, and the police had got in touch with them. They had already said no. And we had this all the way through. I've got proof in a letter. The school sent a letter out stating that anyone attending our boys' day, their funerals, that they're not to take pictures, they're not to upload to social media, they're not to talk about it, and that these were the wishes of the boys' parents. Completely untrue. At the meeting we had with the police, we told them we wanted the media there, we wanted everyone to see what had happened to our boys. So instead of arranging that, they went behind our backs, got in touch with the school, because I asked one of my daughters to go up to school and get a copy of that letter. So I've got that letter. And we asked the school why they sent out this letter, which was a clear lie. They were not our wishes at all. And they said the police got in touch and told them that. So these were the things as well in the very early days that we were spotting the police was doing. And I demanded a meeting with the liaison officer and the sergeant involved in the case, which we had round Sarah George's mum's house. So with all the families, and we spent 4 hours there, and we asked them many questions. Do you know how many they answered?
0.
Exactly that. All we had was the sergeant with a little black book like that, opened up, and all she was saying was, "Oh, I haven't got," flicking the pages and going, "Oh, I haven't got the answer to that. I'll come back to you." And do you think she ever came back to us?
No, I don't. I mean, I know how the police were with you in regards to, especially with the way that the courts treated you as well. I know this is fast forwarding a bit, but it's just coming to my mind. But I remember when I was stopping down in London, and I remember it was the day before the appeal for the driver, and I remember they just contacted you I think it was by email, wasn't it? Literally like the day before, and the way that they've treated you from start to finish, it's absolute like I've been one of these people throughout my life that when you look at things, you see things and you realise how bad it is. But it wasn't until I met you and I spent so much time with you and saw what they'd done to you, and that's why it makes me so angry. And that's why I'll always stand behind you, because I know that all you're trying to do is get justice for those 3 boys. And the fact is that the Met Police, the CPS, the Mayor of London, they're all in on this, and they don't want you to get justice because it's going to make them look bad, because it's going to expose them for what they are. But just to go back, in regards to the solicitor, because I remember you speaking about this on a couple of live streams. Now, when you was at the first trial, they took the impact out of the impact statements, didn't they? And it's just, do you know what, the whole thing stinks from start to finish. And I just want, like I said, I want people in this chat to understand that you're fighting this daily. You're not, even if you're not out on the streets daily, although you're out every week, but you're constantly fighting. There's so much work that goes on behind the scenes with emailing these people and the answers that you get back. And I mean, how do you think we can, that's the question here, how do you think that we can help other people that have been victims of this? Because I remember you saying that this isn't just an isolated incident, and you've been the standard bearer for a lot of people. You help people, I've seen it myself, and you're not only fighting for the boys, but you're fighting for everybody else. So it's just when you first went down to Speaker's Corner, what made you go down there? Obviously, other than, you have to get the truth out about the boys, but it must have been very difficult to start with. And you know, you're basically, you're an inspiration to people, Tracy, and I truly believe that eventually you will get justice. It's going to be hard, but you know that those boys will be so proud of you. And the thing is, there's so many people that are in support of you. They've seen what's happened to you, but yet you're still here. You're still fighting, and you're not going away. So, what can we, the people, do to assist you in this? Is there anything that we can do to help you? Because that's basically what the point that I'm trying to get across. What is it that we, the people, can do to help support you, Tracy?
Just keep pushing the story, you know, and don't listen to the people who lie about it. If you hear someone lying about our boy's story, or even me, ask them for evidence. That's all you've got to do. And then when you see they can't produce evidence, then you know they're lying. You know, and I don't want to obviously talk much more on that, because I know that's all about diversion, dragging me down, you know, because that's what they think they can do, and it's far from it. It just makes me fight even harder. I can see what their games are, just like they're messing with my video tonight, you know. It's going in and out of blurriness, and I never have a problem with this webcam. So I'm already getting it tonight, yeah, because, you know, I'm speaking out against the government, and, you know, not just for our dear boys, Josh, Harry, and George, for the rest of the children in this country, because coming out and researching, I have learned so much stuff, you know, and these people, you know, they're evil, they're narcissistic, they're twisted, yeah, and there is no representation for the people in this country, for the working class and the poor. There is no representation at all whatsoever. They are diluting charges in courts. Yeah, it's not a justice system. Yeah, in fact, it's inverted. It's dark. It's very, very dark. I believe they use a lot of these people to also help commit crime. So, right, they do a deal. We do this, but you need to do this for us. Yeah, that's why we have so many people out on the streets, police informers, agitators, story stealers, state agents. Yeah, because that's what they do with them. And that's how they club so many together. You've got groups out there. You know, I didn't know this when I first come out after Speaker's Corner. Just to answer that, it was one of the parents who we were speaking to the media. You know, after the 4 days in, and then realising what the police was doing, we was trying to get our story out through the mainstream media, telling them what happened, what we knew, and what by then we knew the police were definitely lying about. What happens? The mainstream media don't report what we say. They carry on with their narrative to lead people to believe that our children are a bus stop. Our children will walk in, and we still have people now think that our children were at a bus stop because of the mainstream media. Over that weekend, every report that the mainstream media put on the news and whoever they were speaking to were not first hand witnesses. They didn't use one first hand witness because they knew they couldn't, because everyone saw it, who saw it, said quite clearly it was deliberate. Yeah, so they wanted to feed a different narrative. So all the media, that's what started. I mean, you know, I've always known, you know, there is fake news and you can't always believe what the media say. But I didn't understand the depths of what they go to, until sadly what happened to me. And then they even said to us, they promised us, and you imagine this as a parent, yeah, they promised us that on the day of Josh and Harry had the funeral together. George's was done the week before, and they promised that if they could interview us straight after, straight after that, they would print it in their paper. Stupidly, I agreed with one of the other parents. Well, as long as they're going to do that, that's fine. So, can you imagine coming out of that? You know, just after we did, you know, their service, going in and sitting in this setup while the cars are waiting for you for an hour, because they promised that they would show our story to the people in this country, and then only find out by the next day that again they lied. That was
Because
my
I,
last straw with the
sorry,
media.
yeah, sorry, carry on, Trace. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I said something. Trace.
Yep, Yep.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, because I remember when I first heard, because I remember you got in touch with me in April. I think, yeah, it was April 2018. And I remember, because I remember I'd seen the story, I'd seen a few things on Facebook, but then I'd seen the media reports as well, and the media reports completely, they were weird. They didn't add up. And then when I spoke to you, and we had that Skype call, I believe Marion was on it as well, and just to find out what had happened was absolutely heartbreaking. But what I wanted to say is, you've always maintained this, and rightly so, that the driver's always been on the wrong charge. He was charged with, convicted with death by dangerous driving, but it should have been 3 murders and 2 attempted murders, because before he went into the boys, he'd actually missed the other 2 boys on the way in. And now you've always maintained this, and I just wondered, when you were actually in the court, the way that the judges treated you and the solicitors treated you, I mean, could you go into any detail about how bad they were with you at the court? Because I know that it was horrendous. Sorry to bring this up. If it's too tough, you don't have to answer. I just want to get people. I want everybody in this chat, by the time that we're done, all over, to be talking about this non-stop, because what's happened to your boys could happen to anybody in this country, and that's something that we need to stop from happening. And the way that the justice system works, and like you've said, and I've seen this firsthand because of the stuff that I've learned from you, that they treat the victims as the criminals and the criminals as the victims. Now, the solicitor, I can't remember what his name, but did they say anything to you at the court?
No, because how a court runs, and anyone who's been into court, they will see how it is. Obviously, you assume it to be different. That if they charge you with something and you go into court, you sit in that public gallery, behind that screen, and you don't get to say anything unless they speak to you. Now, when you go to a court after something like this terrible thing that's happened to you, you are treated disgustingly. You are not treated like people that, however you want to call it, victims, of this horrendous crime. They treat you like nothing. In fact, they don't even want to speak to you. Yeah, so they're happy for you to go in, sit in the public gallery and watch it all, but they don't want you speaking. The court case on the 26th of February, which is the first court case at the Old Bailey, we kept getting chucked out, me and another parent, because we wasn't having none of it. Yeah, we already knew by then. We'd already had a CPS meeting. We knew they were lying. At the CPS meeting, they're sitting there reading the collision report, saying he never lost control. And in the court, they're saying the opposite, that he lost control, clipped the curb, mounted the pavement, and killed the boys. The police lied about the manoeuvre of the car that night on the road. I mean, even on my YouTube channel, that I'm shadow banned on, so only so many people.
Just to interrupt you, Tracy, can I get if one of the mods, Stropicow, if you've got Tracy's YouTube link, please put it in the chat. Just put that in as well so people can check those videos out. Sorry to interrupt you, Tracy. I just had to get that in.
That's okay. And just to say, Sarah Jane's right. These psychos get off on traumatising victims, and I totally believe that. And from what I've researched, that's exactly what they get off on, because through my research, which I'll say nearer the end, as I'll just I've got so much in my head and so much to say and so much that I've learned that can help the people of this country, and the government know it, and the government know that I don't fear them. When I stood as independent, I would love to have got in, because I don't fear standing up against 649 people. And believe me, these people in Parliament, it is just an illusion. It is just acting, yeah? None of these people in Parliament have the best interests of the people of this country. They do not. Sorry, going back to the court, James. That's why I told you it's better to ask me questions.
Sorry, I'm lethal, aren't I?
Because that's what you're doing. You're asking me questions. So brilliant, thank you. So with regards to the court, we kept getting chucked out, and then they was asking us to promise that we wouldn't say anything else and we'd be let back in. Things like this. Anyway, we'd get back in, and we wouldn't promise anything, of course. Now, they don't want to speak to you. They stand there in their black cloaks, and there's a reason for that, which I've learned. Yeah, so they stand there in their black coats and they talk to each other. Now, 5 minutes before the court case, we got to meet the prosecutor who quite clearly, again, like the copper told me, was not representing our children, was representing the state. And you have to ask yourself, why is this prosecutor representing the state and not our children? It's our children that have been murdered. Why are you representing the state? Yeah, and that's something I learned on this journey over the last 3 years of why that was. So the second court case, but bear in mind, they never showed any evidence in court. They didn't show the CCTV. They didn't read the collision report. All they did was base everything on one person's witness statement. For the collision report, for the whole trial, one person. Now, there is something about that one person, which is something I can't, unfortunately, discuss tonight for obvious reasons, but that will come out. And I know that there are some people, you know, in the chat that do know what that is, and I know you know what that is, James. So they only based everything on one person, yeah, with regards to our boys. And the second time we was in court, they wanted it done and dusted within four weeks. The quickest court case in history at the Old Bailey. They wanted it done and dusted within 4 weeks. But because our victim impact statements weren't in, they said they would obviously do it at another date. Now, the night before we was due to go for this second date in March, I looked on the Old Bailey's website and I see that we had a time slot at the Old Bailey for 2 hours. This was sentencing.
2 hours.
Yeah, this was sentencing and reading our impact statements. Now I knew there was a lot of impact statements because obviously it was 5 children that the vehicle aimed out, and it would have been more had, you know, dear Harry not landed on the bonnet and made it hit its lamppost. There was more children walking towards, yeah. So so when I looked, I see that we was pushed in a 2-hour slot, 10 till 12, and that she had a murder trial at 12 o'clock. And I knew at that moment that she'd already made her decision before we even got in there to read these impact statements. It was clearly obvious, you know, that they actually mean nothing. Well, anyway, we went to court the next day, sat in a room. This was an hour under court, and our own QC, now bear in mind that our witness statement had been in 3 weeks before. You have to send it in and they go through it, right? And it had been in 3 weeks before, and he literally, and this is the man that's meant to be representing our children, Crispin Aylett, I will say names, yeah, through our impact statements at us families, at me and Harry's parents. He threw them at us, and they were crossed out. So he had changed some words in mine, yeah, literally crossed out and changed some of my words. And then on my last page, he'd crossed it all out, and the same in Harry's parents' one, and said to us that if we didn't like it, we wouldn't be able to read it. So when we got into court and it come up for me reading mine, I went and stood in the stand. And I read what I wrote. The only thing I couldn't do, I didn't read his change words. Yeah, and I could see the prosecutor and the judge looking at each other. But prior to me reading it, I turned to the media and I told the whole court what had just been done. I said, that prosecutor there, who is meant to be representing our children, has just crossed out my impact statement. He has changed words, and that is lawfully wrong. And I've got the judge saying to me, please just read it, please just read it. And I'm saying to her, no, it's wrong. But I'm pleading with the media because I want the media to print this so it can show the public in this country what is going on. When we come out of there, did they print it? No, of course they didn't, because they're not here for us. Yeah, they don't want the British public to know anything that is going on. All they are, the media, is the propaganda arm for the establishment, for the government. That's all they are.
100%. The next question that I've got to ask, I know, please don't laugh at me for saying this. I know you don't scare easily, and I know you're not intimidated. I know you very well. But have the police ever tried to intimidate you or the other families or any of, anybody that's been involved in the case? Have they done things? Because we all know that they act in ways. I mean, I know that when you were doing the yellow vest, when you were out with the yellow vest, the way that they would treat you, sending tactical support groups after you, and genuinely just trying to hamper what you were doing. So have they done anything where you thought, hang on a minute, this is them trying to intimidate me, this is them trying to send me a message to tell me that I should be quiet?
Well, I think they know they can't intimidate me, and the police know they can't intimidate me. Since this has happened, and since being in the yellow vest and all things going on, I have had the police come to my house 3 times. Each time I've sent them packing, and I also sent an email, right? So I've got this in proof that I sent an email, as you know, James, before you got banned from the area because you was going to use my address as bail, wasn't you?
Oh yeah, but they. Do you remember that phone call?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say the day before that happened to you, and you had to go into Holborn Police Station. I'd sent an email to the Commander-in-Chief of the Met Police, and I told them quite clearly to never ever send their dogs around my house again, otherwise I will turn up at theirs. Yeah? None of the police are welcome at my house. My son lived here, and they all lied, and they are not welcome where my son lives. So I quite clearly said that in an email to them. So I've had meetings with them. So I know the police know that I'm not intimidated by them whatsoever. And so what they choose to do instead, going with the yellow vest and the things that I have had happened, is what they try and do is alienate. So what they want to do is on the yellow vest, I've been say like I was outside Islington Station with everybody else, yeah, and it was my live that they took to try and prosecute some yellow vests in court, but they didn't prosecute or charge me. So it's about. Plus, I've had a. You're not going to believe this because I mean Diane will because she knows anyway. But I live in a very little tiny village. It's not a big place at all. And you know that yourself, James. And I actually had on January the 4th this year a bomb scare down this road, and it was around 10 to 8 in the morning, right? And they knocked at all the houses and got all the people out in their pajamas and everything else, but they didn't knock at mine, by the way. They didn't knock at mine, yeah. And there was this package, and just sitting there, and a Range Rover police, there was loads of police, yeah, and they were at the end of my pathway chatting away, yeah, and then a Range Rover came down, which had police on the side and 2 men got out, and they picked the package up, and they opened it up, and it was a book with a battery in it. Now, come on, if that was a fake bomb hoax, where was the army, where was the robotic arm and everything else? So it is about, I know it's bonkers, isn't it? So it's about alienating. Yeah. So what they did with the yellow vest when I was in, one of the yellow vests, and believe me, there's so many great people in the yellow vest that I've walked with and become friends with some of them. Yeah, that I think so much of. So I walked with other people who were very brave, but when these incidents were happening, when they were arresting them, they wasn't arresting me. So it's about alienating people. So i.e. with that issue on the 4th of January, everyone down my road knows who I am. The people in the village know who I am. They've got, we've got a big poster up of the boys at the roundabout that we've had there for nearly 3 years, and people will put flowers down up there and so on. It's about putting people off me and discrediting me and alienating me. So that's their way in at the moment. Whatever happens, down the line, I can't answer, but that's their tactics at the moment with me.
So just to clarify, so for everybody that you might know, so they put a bomb hoax down the road that you are. They don't knock on your door. Now, I remember when they wanted to speak to me about arresting me, they had the audacity to turn up at your property. I remember you ringing me, telling me how many of them were. I remember you chasing them off down the street. But also the level, I think what people need to realise as well, just how high up this corruption goes, because not only have you got your run-of-the-mill police commanders that are aware of this cover-up as well, but you've also got people such as Cressida Dick, Sadiq Khan, and also our elected Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Now, I remember the night that on the election night, I remember I think you guys confronted Boris and asked him, and he ignored it. Now, Boris Johnson is fully aware of what happened to the boys, and he's not done anything. He's not done anything to help, and these people know about this. They know about the case, and it's absolutely disgraceful how they've treated you. So what we've got so far is we've got the Met Police have covered it up. They've then tried to rush through the trial in record time. We've got Boris Johnson's administration, and obviously before that it was Theresa May's, that have refused to do anything about it. Now, I remember a letter that was sent to the Attorney General by the Minister for Policing, wasn't it, Nick Hurd? Now, I know we spoke about this on the stream the other week with John Lawrence, but this is massive news, because when he contacted the Attorney General in the letter, he quite clearly stated that there are 4 points. 4 points for a retrial. So I just wondered if you could just go into a bit more detail on that for the audience as well, because I know that some of them might not have watched it. And like I said, this is about getting as much information out as possible this evening. But yeah, so if you could go into a bit more detail, Trace.
Yeah, so we had a meeting at Westminster. I had many meetings prior to this meeting with Nick Hurd, who at the time was Minister for Policing, because he was also my MP, where Boris Johnson was also another family's MP. Boris Johnson has seen part of the evidence. He knows our boys' murders were covered up. He was also CC'd in this letter from the Minister of Policing, Nick Hurd. Now, we asked for a meeting again with him, where we said to him, we're prepared to show him some of the evidence. Obviously, we don't want to give our hand of telling them everything we know, because I know that's what the police want. They want to know everything we know, so they can, when we eventually get it to court, that they can then be prepared for what's coming. So we don't want them to know everything. Well, anyway, we had this meeting at Westminster with the Deputy Commissioner, Matthew Horn, another corrupt police person, that they don't get to be high in the police unless they are corrupt, and Nick Hurd. So we went along, we showed some evidence, which is obviously classed as fresh evidence, to Nick Hurd. And after that meeting, with Nick Hurd seeing it for himself, he wrote a letter to the Attorney General on the 1st of August 2019. He CC'd and sent that letter also to Boris Johnson, who completely ignored it again. And he sent that to the Attorney General. And to date, we have not had an answer to that letter. Nothing. Now, in that letter, it was 4 points for a retrial, each point on their own, a retrial in itself. And from there, just to say, I did also, when the new Attorney General came in, I did also forward that letter onto her, and still no reply. Now, this is 4 points for a retrial. It was asking for a meeting so we could present all of this to the Attorney General. Of course, he doesn't want us there, because once they see it, they already know. But once they see it with their own eyes, what can they do? Just like Nick Hurd. We took the evidence there. We showed him. He saw it with his own eyes. You know, we've got things in this case where they put fake CCTV timestamps and time codes on still pictures, you know, which we can prove. I said to you before we come on this stream tonight, we found something else out last night.
Yeah.
And it's continuous, you know, just there is a documentary that's being made, but it just got longer and longer and longer and longer. Does that make sense? You know, and it's been never ending, you know. Look, I could do a live tonight and show everything I've got, and then people would go, wow. I'd only have to tell the people listening now one thing: a connection between two people in our boy's case, and that's enough. But the Attorney General knows it because it was in that letter, or part of it was in that letter, I should say. and they're still ignoring us, because of course they are, because they know that I've been out there, I've been telling the public, that what's happened to our boys are not isolated cases. I thought it was going on about for about 7 years, yeah, 7, 8 years, or whatever it is. Someone who I met told me it's been going on since 2010. And then I met a woman also out there who had all these clippings that she'd been putting in a scrapbook that also said 7 years. Yeah. And all they have to do, it's the media, isn't it? The media will portray to you a story, a narrative of what's happened to someone, get the public to believe that. And believe me, I've met many families. I have many families message me who are all fighting for justice. It's not just me. It's not just me doing this. A lot of people are doing it in their own homes behind closed doors, like I do for the boys here. It's just that I came out to tell the public what is going on, because that's the right thing to do. How can I know what happened to my son? Yeah. I was brought up in a very male environment. I was brought up listening to Last Night at the Proms every year. I had to listen to that. I went to all Church of England schools. I was brought up with a moral code. When a wrongdoing is done, you fight back at that. We're defenders. That's what English people are. We are defenders, and we defend to the end. Only I thought, there was a lot more people out here that had that sort of spirit in them, like the Dunkirk spirit, but it isn't it? Many people sell their souls, and they really don't give a damn about you or your children. They just.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot of charlatans that come in and out of movements with the aim of trying to destroy them, discredit people, and ultimately sabotage people's quests for justice. Now, everything that you've ever done, I mean, I like I said, even when I was banned from London, I was still watching everything that you were doing. And just to mention to the chat, we are going to open up to some questions when we've done talking. So I know there's quite a few people that have got some questions, so we are going to do that. But some of the activism that you've done has been absolutely outstanding. Now, from as far as I can tell, I don't recall any other group, individual or organisation ever storming into the Attorney General's office and demanding justice. I don't recall any other organisation storming into the Coroner's office and demanding justice. I don't know anybody else that, like what you guys, the Yellow Vest, and you did at my first court case was absolutely incredible. That day we all stood up to the establishment. But I guess what the word is, that like you've done so much to push this quest forward, and rightly so. How has it affected you personally? Because this obviously consumes every moment of your life, and rightfully so. And I want people to see, because there's a lot of people, they seem to have short flash memories. They'll hear something and then they'll forget about it. But you and the other families, and in particular your family, you're going through this on a daily basis, and I know how difficult it is for you to fight for justice. So, I mean, what you're a special. Basically, the word I'm trying to say is you're a special type of person. I don't know any. If that had have happened to me, I don't think I would have had the strength to do what you've done, and you've done this. Despite all the attacks, despite everything, and yet you're still here standing strong. You're still here fighting for the boys, and I just want to know how you do it, Trace, because you're amazing. You what you've been through, and what you're still going through, and the fact that you can get people out onto the streets, and you've got everybody that I know is in full support of you. So I know it's probably a bit of a silly question, because I know what keeps you going, but what is it for just so the chat know, because you are, like I said, you're a special kind of lady, Tracy.
It's very difficult to answer. I mean, just a few things going on back to storming the Attorney General's office. We done these things. We stormed the CPS, the coroners, as you also mentioned, because we had to show. But the public need to know this. Yeah, everyone's got children, and they need to know. And I know you can't wrap up children in cotton wool, but it really isn't safe out there. And I think many people that are aware of what's going on know that. And there's many things. There's many things going on to the children. Children are being abused. It's been ignored, and been ignored for years because they're all complicit in it. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we are. also been lied about from, sadly to say, from people that have been on the streets and certain people leading movements, yeah, and so on. You've not been told the full story of things. As for how I can do this, as I said just now, I was brought up in a very male-dominated environment. You know, my dad was a boxer in the army, and he taught me no matter how low you get back up. And maybe it's the I don't know, the Anglo-Saxon roots. You know, English. You know, we're brave. That's how I was brought up. And no matter what you feel, my pain I couldn't describe. It would never. I would never be able to describe it in words, because it's horrendous, it's horrific, and you have to live with that daily, but you have to use that to fight back. Yeah? That pain that you feel, you use to fight back. Yeah? And going on, you know, because Johnny Retro has said quite a few things in here. Thank you, Johnny, for your comments. And, you know, one of the things he said, you know, and it's good things, he said loads of good things. He said, Tracy, you need to set up a Patriot Party or a Truth Party with others who have gone through the same thing. Just to say, when you lose a child, it destroys you. Yeah? It takes parts of you that are just not there anymore. And it's very difficult to do what I do, and I know that. Yeah? And I don't want to say you have to have a certain time of strength, because that would be, you know, it may not be the right thing to say. But there is something that, you know, I felt a massive responsibility to the people, and that's what a patriot is, isn't it? You know, you've got fake patriots and you've got people that are pretend patriots of this or that. A patriot is purely about protection. That's how I was brought up, and about protecting your country and protecting the people and the children. Yeah, and that's how I was brought up. But I also appreciate how hard and difficult it is for other parents to come out when they've lost their child to do what I do. They will fight, but they will fight, you know, at home, sending their emails, speaking, you know, to people, and so on and so on. But to come out on the streets like I've done, um, and will continue to do. And just to say, because I know the government watch, I haven't finished door knocking, by the way, just so you're aware. Secondly, when I went into the Attorney General's with the other yellow vest that day, like I said, there's great people in those in the yellow vest that also fight for the country and the people and the children, not just me. And another family was with me in there, asking for a meeting with the Attorney General over their son. Yeah, so there was another. I don't want to say who they are, just in case they don't want their name out there. But another family was there, you know, and well done on them for coming that day, knowing that we was going to go into the Attorney General. So another family did do that. So yeah, there's my answer. Maybe it's the English in me that we're brave, aren't we? That's how I was brought up. That's what we are.
Well,
And
there's a lot. Go on.
sorry,
Sorry.
James,
No, sorry. Carry on.
government, I think the government, through their agendas, has demoralised people and made people forget who they are and what they stand for.
Well, I believe the way that the government acts is all about destroying communities and ensuring that that none of us communicate with each other, because they want a society where we just walk on by each other, where we don't speak about what's going on and the many problems that we're currently facing. I want to talk about the driver's appeal, because I remember that day very vividly. Now, just so the chat knows, they reduced the driver's sentence, didn't they, from 13 years down to 10 years, and they did this without. I'm still shocked that they did it, and I remember being in that court with you. There was quite a few of us in there that day. I always remember that, and it will live with me forever. But I mean, they said that they reduced his sentence because of the impact that it's had on the driver's family. They've never taken your feelings into consideration in any of this. And I just want to know how I suppose it's going to be a bit of a difficult question, but how can we defeat these people when they have so many tools that they use against us? They've got the media, they've got the politicians. You know, you can get taken off the street for saying a word. They've used intimidation tactics, tactical support group. They've tried their best to discredit you. How can we be better equipped to deal with this, basically? And sorry if it is a bit of a difficult question, but I know you spend a lot of time researching and looking into things, and I really value your opinion. So I'd very much like to know, I mean, what ideas you have for how we can be better equipped to deal with these parasites that are destroying families' lives.
Right, just going back to the appeal courts. As you know, because you was at both, wasn't you? As you know, that on the 4th of December, we held that court. Yeah, we held that court. And everyone stood in unison because no one sat down. The court was packed and no one sat down. So we showed that court that we was not standing under them, because we actually stand over these people. And as you know, because we held the court and we caught the defence, she admitted the lie in that court she did at the Old Bailey. She admitted it. And she also went on to lie another 2 times and got caught out again. Now, so what the judge did, which was the highest judge in the land, Judge Leeson, he deferred it because he couldn't control the court. So what he did, he deferred it, and he said to us, I don't know if you remember, but he said to us that we wouldn't need to come back, that they would write to us. But of course, we're not going to wait for a letter. We're going to go back when this court case is. So the court case came, and what they did, they didn't write to us. They called us on the tea time of the night before. So they'd done it on the 21st of December. So on the 20th, tea time the night before, they said that there was court in the morning, in the hope that we couldn't make it. So then they, sorry, bear with me 1 second.
No,
so we went anyway, and as you know, you was there at that one. We went into the outside already reducing it before we even got into the courtroom. So we obviously went straight into the courtroom. I had been saying to the court that they didn't have the correct evidence, that they even had only half a map. So in this half a map of Shepperton Lane, they'd done these dotted arrows to the side of the pavement of where they were saying in the appeal courts that this car mounted, and it didn't. It wasn't even where our boys were murdered. Our boys were murdered further up the road. They had, you know, so this is how they were doing it. So, and I was obviously trying to put across, they called the police. And then all of a sudden they got up, they went out, we're in court 5, and they went into court, no, we was in court 4, they went into court 5. And we didn't even know. And it was only because one of the parents were watching updates on her phone from it that it said they've changed courtrooms. So then we got up, didn't we? Went into the other court. When we
dropped a few stink bombs.
They'd finished doing what they'd done, and they turned the lights off on us. And that was the moment that the police that turned up to that took their hats off, because they saw it with their own eyes. Yeah, and I refused to leave to the court until one of the police officers went and got the court's judgment on what he just did, which he did. So there was that. As for how do we do it, how do we act? Now, I know what they want. They want civil unrest, civil war, don't they? Because when your country is in time of peace, they can't use the military because the military have no power when you're in time of peace. Once you're in time of war, and that includes civil war, then they can call the military in. Now, what it's all about, it's learning, which I have done, their legal realm. So we live in a duality. That's what we live in. So once you know the authority you hold and the power you hold and the power that they don't hold, that is how you fight back. Yeah. And for example, we the government and the police and assumptions, and right now they're buffering.
They're keep noticing it keeps buffering.
Yeah, because they know I'm talking about it, right? So, You know, everything's done under a presumption and an assumption. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. If someone got me a tank tomorrow, I would get in that tank. I would go down, and you can listen and you can record this government. You can do what you like with it, yeah, because I stand over you, yeah, and I know what you've done in your legal realm, and I know what you've done to the people of this country, right? If someone, don't get me wrong, if someone got me a tank tomorrow, I'll happily get in it, go down and drive it through the gates. Yeah, so don't get me wrong on that. Happily, I would do that. But unfortunately for us, they took our rights. And remember, it was only a right. It was never the law. But they have fooled us all. Fooled us all. You know, back in 1996, they took our rights away to bear arms. And they did that intentionally because this agenda that's going on today, they have planned for a long time. They knew what they were doing in 2020. The whole thing's been planned. Yeah, that's why they took the first thing you do if you want to rule a country is take away their rights to bear arms. Take it away, and then you leave the people of this country defenceless. Just like they've industrialised us. Yeah, took our steel industry, mining, and everything else. This is where you have to stay when you want to learn knowledge and become wise. I've learned so much, yet I know nothing. But this is where you need to be, not doing videos, and don't take me wrong on this, James, but you know I'm just honest to you. Not doing videos using an article that you've got from the news, because 98% of the news is fake, or it is a story that they've distorted, or they've created this Christ acting propaganda piece and putting it in the news, and everyone's believing it's real. Right, so the way to assist in waking up the nation is only the truth. And once you know what your truth is, and you can only call it your truth, that is how you help the people. That's how you help them.
I think that's a very good answer, Tracy. What I like about you, I've said this to you before, but you've always stuck to what you've believed in. You've never changed. You've always stuck to your opinions, and you've always done your research. We've got questions in here. Can we get crowdfunding for a tank?
Oh, I love a tank. Trust me. You know, trust me.
Or one of those. What are they called, Tracy? That you drive and it sprays all the shit. What was it? The French were doing it.
A muck spreader.
Yeah, a muck spreader. Yeah, any farmers?
I'll happily get that. I'll happily get that. And you know, as soon as they come out of Parliament, I'll do it all. You know. To say you're in dark days, I've been in dark days now for 3 years, yeah, because of, what's happened. And I know now, and many of those yellow vests, they've got their own tragic stories, yeah, their own that they're also out there for, as well as the people in the country. And I've lost my thread now. I was going to say I've lost my thread. It's just gone mind blowing.
Do you know what? I do it all the time, and I always lose track of thought. We were talking about the tanks and money. If there's anyone in the chat, sorry, I've just been monitoring the chat to see if there's any more questions. I could bring up a question whilst we were going there. Sorry, my mind goes blank as well sometimes.
Can I just say to the people in the room? The government will use any trickery and any form of deception to deceive you, like telling you, and I know there's a lot of you in this room that are already aware of this, but for the ones who are not, the acts and statutes, they are not law. Even when they say something is mandatory, it is not law. Just remember, and it's the easiest way to say it for you, that consent is law. If you just remember that, yeah, and never give your consent, you'll be safe. Yeah. So when you're watching things like, I'll just give you an example, and I don't obviously want to deter from what the subject is tonight. If they say to you vaccines are mandatory, that's not law. They're not. You can just say no consent. Yeah. But we'll save all that. Maybe if James can get me on another time.
Yeah, of course. You're welcome to come on any time you like.
A different subject for you all to assist in really what's going on here, because you have to see how the government work. This is a psychological warfare on the people. We have a de facto government that is no representation for us. These are not British. These are internationalists. They're globalists. Yeah. And like I say, I don't want to deter from this, but this is everything, obviously, that I've researched and have become wise to and have learned along the way. Because I made sure they sent many people, and they still do now, to try and infiltrate me or try and drag me this way, that way, and so on and so on. I don't allow it because I know how they work. So I stay here in a straight line, yeah, and continue to learn, and then pass that on to anyone who wants to listen, to safeguard yourself. I told you, another way you can do it. I said on my live stream, I think I said it with Dave, who
I
buffering
love
me.
I love Dave Simpson. He took me around Newport for the day. We got surrounded by lefties all day, but we had some good fun. Is it buffering again?
Yeah, it's buffering.
It's heavy. Do you know what happens when we're on the phone as well? Every time I ring you, it cuts out. It does it all the time. It's disgraceful.
Doing it on
Sorry.
purpose.
Oh yeah, because they don't want people knowing. They don't want you to get your message out there as far and wide as you have. Uh, Great bastards. I'm gonna have to send Tracy the link again now because they've just booted her out. So 1 second whilst I just send the link. Hold on. Do bear with me 1 sec, guys. Let me just resend Tracy the link. As you can see, right, I've just sent Tracy the link again. The stream's not finished yet, but obviously the globalists at YouTube don't want the truth getting out there, so just going to wait for Tracy to come back in. I have got some questions from the chat for us to go through when Tracy gets back on. Like I said, if you have got any questions, please put a queue in front of them, and we'll aim to get go through as many of those as possible. So whilst we're waiting for Tracy, just to reiterate, so Josh, Harry and George, they were murdered when they made their way to a friend's birthday party. Oh, here we go, Tracy's back.
Am I back in?
Do you know what? Every time I've streamed lately, a couple of hours after, my internet connection goes off, and I'm having to go onto my phone, and then it logs me out the Wi-Fi, and it keeps doing it over and over and over again. But obviously, these people don't want your voice getting out there as much. But sorry, carry on with what you were saying before they rudely interrupted you.
Sorry, can I just answer Lewis's P's question? There is something coming up that I can't speak about right now, Lewis, but there is something coming up in January that we will be highlighting in quite a big area for the boys. So that's the answer to that. Thank you.
No problems. There's another question from Barry Clark. He's a friend of mine in Leicester, and he's asked, should he and myself take a week off work and go travelling the country, handing out leaflets and putting posters up? Now, we did do that back in 2018, and like I said, it is my intention to get some flyers done. I've just been it's been a bit busy at the minute with obviously, well, a few things that are going on in the personal life that I can't speak about on here. But yeah, so there's another question from Odin's Law, and he says, can we make some posters and stickers to create awareness?
Yeah, I mean, I've still got loads of leaflets, and I've got to say, Active, does a lot of, he's got a great heart, Active, and he means really well, and he's a genuine person. And he, has been doing stuff to highlight the boys. I've got T-shirts and I've got leaflets. I'm happy, if you send James or even me direct your details, free of charge, I'm happy to send them to you to be given out and so on and so on. I mean, the leaflet was done back in 2018 and a lot more has come out since then, but it's a start. So yeah, no, anything to highlight the case is massive, because once our case is opened up, it opens up for many, believe me.
Also, there was the we did do a few days before, didn't we? Back in, I think it was 2018, where we had National Days of Awareness, where people went around to police stations, in particular, handing in the leaflets to the police station to make them aware of what's happened. For everybody that's in the chat, like I said, if you drop myself or Tracy a message, I think I've actually got a PDF copy of one of the flyers on my computer. But what I'll do, Tracy, is I'll check that with you first, because obviously quite a few things have happened since then. So it'd probably need to be updated. So there was a couple of more questions from the chat. Evening, Natty. Good to see you, mate. Let me just go through. So Mark Warren has a question for you, and that was, how did me and you meet? Did we know each other before?
Who's that? Me and you?
Yeah.
Me and you. It was actually one of the other parents saw a post that you'd actually done, James, and sent it to me and said, what about, obviously we was trying to get, the boy's story out there as far and wide as we could. I was speaking out before I ever done a demo, and I went to Speaker's Corner, and I spoke about the boys there a couple of times, and it picking up from there. And one parent saw a post that you'd done and sent it to me and said, look, what about asking this young man if he could put the story out of the boys, tell him the story, and that was on Facebook. So that's how I met James, and through James I met Marion, and I've stayed friends ever since. Like James will tell you, me and James don't have the same views on everything, but we're friends, and he's never faltered where the boys are concerned, and that's very important. You get some people that seem to think that you can't have a different view with someone, and if you have a different view, you shouldn't be their friend. It's absolutely ridiculous to even think like that.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? This cause, and I've said this to a few people, I think Marion said it as well, but this should be the cause that literally unites the whole country, because it's about the fact that 3 children have had their lives taken away from them. 3 families have been destroyed. No justice has been served. And this is what should unite everybody with empathy inside of them. Because if it's happened to you, it could happen to any one of us. And I know for a fact that if it had have happened to me, and if it had have happened to my daughter, then I'd want as many people as possible making people aware of what's happened. And I've seen the attacks that have happened to you. I've seen the smears, and they always seem to come from the same people. And I personally believe they do this because they know that you can't be bought. They do this because they know people fear genuine, honest people that are literally, like we've said over and over again, you didn't choose to do this. You were forced to do this. You were forced to fight for justice, and that's something that you've never wavered from. You've travelled. I've been with you. You've travelled up. We went from London all the way up to Edinburgh, then to Glasgow, Sunderland, Newcastle. Met Rachel for the first time in Manchester, love of my life. Here we go. And then we went back down to Leicester, London. We went across to Wales. We've been all over Birmingham, and we've done that because I wanted to help you as well, because like I said, when I heard what happened, I felt compelled that I had to do something, that I had to stand up. And there's been so many good people that I've met through this cause, but there's so many people that that you look at and you think fair play to you. You've got people such as Brian and John, the football lads that were out. We were out raising money at the weekends, going to football grounds, standing outside, shaking buckets. Literally everything we could do to try and help raise funds and raise awareness, really, as well. I know it's quite funny. You remember this one? How much did we raise? What was it? If we raised £600, then I would go to a Millwall football. No, I'd go to the Sadiq Khan blimp in a dress, didn't I? And I remember you very, very fondly for this, laughing.
James, you done it for 200 quid.
It was more than that. But the point is, like,
200 quid you wore a dress.
But I did it, and you know what? I'd do anything to try and help you. And we were walking in heels and a dress to the Sadiq Khan blimp in Westminster, and then we went to the Millwall home match after. But we've been all over. I think we'd even been to Nottingham. We've literally been everywhere trying to raise awareness to what's gone on. So, like I said, I look back on the past 2 years. I just wish that we'd have met under different circumstances. But what I do know is this, to everybody that's watching this in the chat this evening, this is a woman that, like I said, that has been forced to get involved in this. She's not doing it because she's got some grand ambitions of being a massive political leader. She's doing this because somebody needs to stand up for the children. Somebody needs to stand up for Josh, Harry, and George and make sure that they get justice. And this should be, like I said, this should be a uniting issue amongst all groups, whether whether you're Civnat, whether from the left of politics, because essentially it's about justice. It's about making, these things happen all the time, and they're happening, and the political class don't care. And like just what Marion said in here, anyone with a clean heart would support this campaign, and they have. There's been hundreds, thousands of people out on the streets. What you did with the yellow vests every week, and let's get this straight, you were out there every week without fail, raising awareness, being attacked by the police, and you did this. And it's a shame to see how some people have acted and reacted, but ultimately those people, they don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because essentially all that matters is that we support you, we support the families, and we support the boys' cause. So I think with that being said, is there anything else that you wanted to go over that I might have missed? Because I know that there was one thing that I wanted to speak about, and that was when we did the walk of respect back in the September. Do you remember? Right. Do you remember what the police did to the owners of the pub? Do you remember what?
Yeah. That night, the reason why we know, just to say, Sarah, I will come back to your question in a minute. I've just seen it, and I will come back to it. And thank you for the questions. Thank you, everyone, tonight, and hello to everyone. What happened? We've done the walk of respect, and that actual night, I got a message from someone who drinks in that same pub that we left from, that is on Shepston Lane. And I got a message, and I don't want to say that what was in that message yet, because it's something else that we will use in court. But it was with regards to the police, and regards to that pub, and regards to our boys' case. So I told, obviously, the other families about this message and that I'd received. So the next day, another family member went back to the pub to discuss this message, because it actually came, well, I don't want to say actually, because I have to be careful and protect people at the same time, So one of the other family members went to the pub. Sorry, my hair's got so long.
They're messing with the stream
again. Yeah, because they don't want no one to know, see. So they went to the pub the next day, and as soon as they walked in, there was police licensing sitting there, asking the people who own the pub, how many people turned up, are they going to have us there again? What did we discuss in the pub? What did they hear anything we discussed around the pub? The very next day, to these people in this pub. Right. So, which was witnessed by one of the other parents who went there. So, you can see the lengths they go to. So not only do they want to alienate me and put people off me, they also want to, the threatening anywhere we go or anyone around,
Well, that's the reason they arrested it. They wanted to split us up because they saw what we were doing in London, and we were doing some fantastic things. But it wasn't just about one or two people; it was about everybody that was out there. I remember some of the stuff that we've done, and it was, but it was all done right, and it was done because we just wanted to, raise awareness. We'd be out on the streets and we'd be saying to the Met Police, "Come on, look at this. How can you take these orders from these people at the top when you know what's happened?" I mean, we slept outside Downing Street. I know I did 4 days sleeping outside Downing Street for the veterans, and then I think it was a week or two later, we did the sleep out for the boys. We slept out in the rain and the cold, and we told everybody that walked by what happened to those boys. And I even remember that they sent, I don't know if you remember this, one of the lads actually came came out from Theresa May's office, didn't he? She'd actually sent somebody else to talk to us about it.
Telling us to take the tent down that had the portable toilet in, knowing that they'd allowed the tents up 2 weeks before in that, what they call is a pen. It's funny that they call it a pen, isn't it? You know, what sits in a pen?
Pigs.
Animals, yeah, animals. That's why they call it a pen, because they see us as. Just to say, Big Nose has just said that every week they were taking us in the Lord of the Moon every week for sure. I totally agree with that. Also, can I just respond to Sarah, because I said I would?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. Yeah.
I've just got to find it now. Sorry, bear with me. Right, question. Do you find it harder to trust people now due to all the troublemakers, fakers? Oh, 100%. When you first come out, Sarah, and you're getting people approaching you that say, you know, they want to help put your story out or whatever, you assume because you care, you know, who wouldn't care about murders of children and this being covered up, and that you can show them some of that evidence. So yeah, you know, you do believe initially when you come out, even though I'm not a fool or someone who can be easily fooled. You know, when you're going through the toughest time of your life and will do forever, and you've got people coming, you assume, yeah, of course, you know. And then as time goes on and months go down the line, you start seeing people's behaviour, you start seeing things, yeah. Especially when you're backstage of things, you start hearing things, and then you start getting phone calls, like I did, and things being said. You start seeing many things, but what you start seeing is how the government work and how many people they put out here amongst us. And the also classic example of that was the Yellow Vest. We were so infiltrated. I don't mean just by 1, 2, 3, or 4 people, by many. Yeah, and a lot of people that left, there were people that left that weren't infiltrators, that were just fooled by the infiltrators. Yeah. And like I said earlier, if anyone says anything about anyone or anything, always ask for evidence. And if they can't produce the evidence, why believe what they're saying that's true? I never do it up and research it myself if they can't show me it. You know, so your question is, yeah, very much. I trust very few, Sarah, very few. And because I do speak out, because I am truthful, and I know you have to research, and you know, and I'm not saying to believe what I say. Research yourself and see what you think yourself. You know, because I do speak out against the government, I have to watch everybody and everything. Yeah, since this has gone on since March, you know, I've seen all sorts go on. So a lot of the time, even though I have gone out there, a lot of the yellow vests have been out there the whole time, just without the yellow vests on. Let me just say, the yellow vests ain't gone anywhere. They are there, out on the streets, but without their yellow vests on at the moment. Because, excuse me, it's all about observing at the moment. Yeah, it's all about observing and seeing what's going on. And when the tactics change, you have to change tactics. Yeah.
That's
And believe me, sorry, yeah, and believe me, I'll just say this: there's a lot of people out there that are leading certain movements right now that are not what you think they are. Yet there's genuine hundreds and hundreds of people going out there following these movements for hope. And all their hope's going to be at the end of it is just coming out every week and going down dead ends and not getting anywhere. While everything's about a diversion, it's always about what they're not showing you. And let me just tell you, I know I don't want to divert from the story, sorry, James, but I'll just tell you.
Don't apologise. We've got.
It'll just give you an example that everything's a diversion. In the meantime of why everyone's concentrating on what's going on in this country at the moment, they have added the flu vaccination to the children's vaccination.
The buffering
from
it again.
ages of 5 to 10. Yeah, of course they are. See, there you go. And they've done that. They've pushed through by Priti Patel. Please don't trust anyone in government. Don't trust not one of them. Priti Patel pushing through the covert human intelligence bill.
Is that where they can legally kill you?
They can legally do criminal things towards us. But remember, it's only legally, it's not lawfully. You've got to remember we're living in a duality, and that's what they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know what the law is, which is the natural law. And trust me, no matter how sick, evil, and twisted they are, and believe me, they are, believe me, they really, really are, they can't go against natural law. Synchronicity, negative, positive. Honestly, they cannot go against it, and that's what they don't want you to know about. They have maxims of laws, and I'll just say, I do apologise if anyone's heard it before. He who does not know his rights has none. And the other one is, he who wishes to be deceived will be deceived. Yeah.
See, this is what I mean.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was saying this is what I like about when you come onto the streams as well, because you're straight to the point, you're incredibly honest, and you always speak the truth. Now, I know that I don't want to deviate too much away from the subject, but it's just what you mentioned about the Tory party, and I think it's also important for all of us to realise, because, you know, especially me myself, I've made mistakes, and unfortunately for me, all of my mistakes have been public and everyone's jumped on them. But I think the biggest mistake people make is they put their trust in the government. They actually believe, because because I think as people we tend to have that belief where, you know, we always give people the benefit of the doubt. And essentially what I'm trying to say is we've got a government that's got an 80-seat majority that are running rampant. So whilst they're force feeding us these hoax stories about COVID, what's actually happening is people are dying from other related illness. So there's more people dying from cancer. There's more, you know, people that needed the treatment from hospitals aren't getting these treatments. And this has all been brought about on purpose. It's been done deliberately, is basically what I'm trying to say. Sorry if it's going off subject, but you just, you know, every time we speak on the phone, you always mention about how you need to do your research, you need to look deeper behind between the lines, and this is what I've tried to do. So I just think that we have a lot of work to do yet to wake up because I was told this: 90% of the population are wishy-washy. They'll go with the flow. There's only there's a certain percentage that are awake to it. So I think just to make sure the chat knows that, let's make sure that none of us give the political class any of our votes, any of our time, because ultimately they don't care about us. They don't care about Tracy. They don't care about the Free Boys. They don't care about any one of us. All they care about is lining their pockets and introducing draconian laws that are basically destroying our communities and making it harder for people to communicate with each other and to come out on the streets to join together, because they genuinely fear an uprising from people. Sorry if I've gone a bit off subject, but I think that's the point that I'm trying to get across.
No, you're right. Sorry, James. I just want to answer some of these things.
No problems. Go through them.
Jeanette, my channel is Tracy Family Blackwell.
I'm just going to put it in for you.
Paul Fagan, thank you for your message with what you wrote. Least worst option. Was there any mention of the two surviving boys in court? Only in parts. Not their statements. Their statements weren't mentioned in court. What they saw was not mentioned in court. Their victim impacts were read out in court, and that's as far as it went. You know, and what I did, we got the transcription from the court for the two cases, and certain things that we wanted from that as proof of what they said in court. Guess what? It's typed inaudible.
Oh, because they redact it, don't they? They take
inaudible, you know. So, and then what they say is just to answer that, Eddie is fine. I still speak to Eddie. Is okay. You know, he's become a dear friend of mine. So Eddie's okay. He's just been busy and working on other stuff, but I am sure that you will see him somewhere out there soon. because I keep telling him he better hurry up and get out there. Yeah. No, no main witnesses. Yeah, exactly, Mariam. No, no, there was no witnesses. There was no witnesses.
So they'd already, so essentially they'd already decided what judgment they were going to have. This is just another thing that it's not, well, it's relevant to the subject, but anybody that's going through a court case at the minute, recognise this and understand this. Your solicitor, he isn't on your side. They're communicating with the prosecution. Anything that you tell your solicitor, they're telling the prosecution. Don't trust these people. They have more, well, they have more power than most, but ultimately they don't. It's about finding the best, whatever they believe to be justice, that's what they're going to give you. It's not, it's not like, it's just, it's an absolute disgrace. It really is a disgrace. The fact that these people are still in their positions of power. You've still got the Met Police commanders that haven't lost their jobs. You've still got the Mayor of London where he is. You've still got all of these people that are corrupt within the authorities and the institutions. All of these people still have their positions. Why haven't they been sacked? There should be a public inquiry into this, because this is absolutely outrageous what's happened. But like you said, I know that you won't ever stop fighting, and I know that there's plenty of people behind you. You've got an army behind you that are willing to get involved and help out. And obviously, I know right now things can be a bit difficult because of the draconian conditions that have been implemented by Boris Johnson's government.
Only if you take them as given.
Well, I don't wear a mask. I usually tell people to fuck off. But
carry on being normal, because unfortunately those are complying, consenting without even realising that they're doing that. Yeah.
So
because they've scared everyone. They've scared everyone. They've scared many, and that's how they do it. It's fear-based control. So they've scared everyone, thinking that there's this, imaginary thing floating above your head, and that it has a, if people was to go through it and think logically, but when people fear, they can't think logically. It's very difficult, and I get that, and I understand that, and it's terrible what they're doing. It's terrible. I mean, someone said here the government has an agenda and we're not included in it. Of course we're not. They hate Indigenous people. But it's in the Indigenous people across the world. It's not just here. What is happening to us here is happening everywhere else. It's not just here. Yeah?
Well, that's a good point that you make, because I think there's a lot of how can I say this? People obviously misrepresent a lot of things that people say, and the main thing is about it all is the enemy of the people is the political class. They're the ones that are causing the division, that are genuinely trying to harm people because they don't want us to be happy. They want a demoralised society that are dependent on the state, so they can take away your rights and privileges at any opportunity, which is exactly what they're doing. So it has to be up to the people to stand up against them. My only regret is that I'm unable to come down to Parliament with you, and I know Brian isn't at the minute as well. We've got another 4 years left before we're able to come down to Parliament, but I'm sure there's other places that would be able to come and assist you with. So I'm just going to say, if there's anybody else that has got any questions in the chat, please fire them in, because I think we'll wrap up in about another 5 minutes. But I just want to thank you for coming on tonight, Tracy. I know it's very difficult. It's very difficult for you to come on these streams. I know people see you on the streams, but they don't understand how difficult it is for people that have been victims of this to continuously speak out. I know that I wouldn't be able to do it in the manner that you've done it, and you are an inspiration to people. And I'm happy to say this in front of people. When I feel down sometimes, or when I'm complaining about my life, I think, what would you do? You're there, you're fighting, and you're doing it, and you're doing it for Josh, you're doing it for Harry, and you're doing it for George, but most importantly, you're doing it for everybody else in this country, and you've always been clear with that message. And I'm just sorry that people have come in and out and infiltrated and tried to destroy it, but ultimately they've not been able to destroy it, and people will see the truth, and people are seeing the truth. And like I said, ultimately, it's about ensuring that the boys get justice and that we fully support you. There's loads of football lads behind you. There's loads of nationalists. There's loads of patriots that are behind you that want to help carry this story through and make sure as many people as possible hear. I mean, I'm willing, and I know there's people in the chat that are willing to go out knocking on doors, handing out leaflets, and you know, and making people aware again, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So if there is anybody that has got any more questions in the chat, can you see the chat, Tracy? Tracy, sorry, can you see it?
Yes, I can. Let me have a look. Thank you. Going on the elections, last night actually I uploaded some of the videos from when I stood last year against them. I thought I'll try that. I thought, okay, we can't sort it out here, get me in there and I'll do it there. You know, but doing that showed me how fraudulent it works. And it is all fraudulent. You know, the whole system, the voting system is rigged. You know, if voting worked, they wouldn't let us vote. You know, they all those parties, yeah, they are all fed from the same spoon.
Yeah, well, they all feed from the same trough, don't they?
Yeah, they just come from different corners. You know, like the people on the streets leading movements, they come from different corners. You know, saying what you want to hear. Yeah, to give you false hope, because that's what it is, false hope, leading you down dead ends. Which is what they don't like about me. Yeah.
Well, they don't like you, Tracy, because they can't control you and they can't tell you who you can speak to and what you're going to speak about. And that's testament to you as a person. They've tried, haven't they? They've tried to tell you what you can speak about, what you can't speak about.
They tried that in 2018, around October time, roughly, in 2018, in a phone call that I received. I told where prior to that, I was already getting trolled by the government trolls. Yeah, probably also the 77th Brigade, you know, which many know about as well. Prior to that, but from that moment, the gang stalking just got huge. From that moment after that call where I told them where to go. Yeah.
Well, you've done absolutely fantastic. There is one more question. Oh, there's two questions here. Least worst opinion says, no, have any of the parents of the 3 children received any correspondence like an apology from the driver since he's been in prison? No. There was a lie that was perpetuated by the solicitor on Newsnight that he'd been in touch, hadn't he? I mean, sorry, I'll let you answer it, but I know from that video alone that solicitor that they wheeled out, he was just a liar, full of shit.
It's all a lie, yeah? I mean, you know, we can't do this at the moment because there is a lot more stuff that you don't know out there, but I could show you documentation, yeah, to prove it's a lie. Everything we talk about, we have evidence or facts. I don't second guess. As I've said before, I had an ex-intelligence officer come to me and tell me a lot of stuff about our boy's case. Now, he clearly knew about our boy's case because he said stuff that wasn't in the media, hadn't been put out by me, but he told me many things. And I have never mentioned one of the things that he ever told me because I don't have proof of that other than he telling me. Now, if I do ever come across proof of what he told me, then I would be saying, Yeah. But as I said, you know, there's a lot anyway, and a lot that isn't out there. And as I said before, that the person they convicted as the driver, we have no proof in anything that we have so far. Please bear in mind that we are still for rest of the data that shows that he was ever the driver. In fact, what we do have, if we want to go there, is that there's a logbook. Yeah, there's a logbook that at the scene that certain people write in, you know, if they've spoken to someone or whatever's turned up and so on and so on. And at the scene, yeah, and we have the evidence to that, that's the only time that apparently he spoke. Never spoke from then on, or no comment after that. But at the scene, they asked him, was he the driver? He said no. They said, who were you? He said the passenger. And then from after that night, There was no other statements again. But he was only ever interviewed for 37 minutes. That's it.
And
And
sorry.
the other
Oh, sorry,
person,
Corinne, Trace.
sorry, James,
No, no, it's fine.
the other person in the car was only ever interviewed for 17 minutes.
So just to clarify for the chat, so the driver was interviewed, well, for 37 minutes. The other guy that was in the car was interviewed for 17 minutes. There were no charges brought against the passenger, despite being an accessory and actually running off. And if it hadn't have been for those brave, brave boys that apprehended, sorry for my language, but apprehended that piece of shit and ensured that, because otherwise, no one would have ever knew who it was. It's just, do you know what? It's heartbreaking and it's frustrating as anything to see that they think that people are just going to take this lying down. And I'm sorry, but they picked on the wrong family to mess with. They picked on the wrong person to mess with. I know that you will never stop until you get justice. And I know that everybody in this chat is going to be on this. We're going to get people out there, flyering, stickering, whatever we can do to help you. We are going to do it. The mainstream media, they're not, what we have to remember is, like you said, Tracy, they are a propaganda arm of the establishment. Everybody talks about how we live in a free, democratic, safe society. We don't. This is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. We're just given the illusion that we have freedom. So you start criticising the political...
Yeah, what they done, they fraudulently, a long time ago, you're probably talking about 800 years ago, yeah, they switched it, yeah, to use maritime law, and Paul again has mentioned it in here, and all we're doing is floating on the sea of commerce, yeah, only you don't know that, yeah, and these are the things that they don't want you to know, because once you start knowing, then you will learn what the law is, and once you know and understand who you are and what jurisdiction to stand under, and know that the government and the police and all the institutions have no authority over you, that you stand over them as a man or a woman. That is how you fight back. Yeah, for £1.25 to what, I can't remember if it's £1.25, £1.75, but off of it, Amazon or maybe eBay, you can get a big poster, a hardboard waterproof poster that says private property, no trespassing. Stick that out the front of your house. Yeah, that's what they do, isn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, and thank you, Shat. She's just linked the Facebook page. Please, if you've not already subscribed to the Fighting for Justice Facebook page, please head over there. That's where Tracy puts the majority of her live streams. There's also some relevant information about what's happened to the boys. Just to answer one of the questions, they never searched the driver's property because the family was asleep. And these are the excuses. So
sorry, James. Sorry,
no, it's okay.
Just to reiterate, if that was a question, yeah, just to say, they never got a Section 18. They never bothered getting it, which we all know you can get if you steal a piece of cheese from the shop. Yeah, and all it is a say-so over the phone. It isn't a judge signing a piece of paperwork, Section 18. But they had the audacity in the CPS meeting to sit there. Jane Shaw, yeah, the sergeant at Alberton Police Station, had the audacity to sit there and say to us, but we did go round there, but people were sleeping, so we didn't want to disturb them. Yeah, 3 children murdered soon burst through other people's door. Yeah, when you think you have the authority, but I now know you have no authority whatsoever.
We've seen all of the. I think when this documentary comes out, people are going to be shocked with what they've seen. I mean, I know what I've seen, and obviously I'm not going to repeat it. I know what I've seen, and I know that this absolutely stinks to high heaven. Every single person that's been involved in this must be held to account. They need holding to account, not only for what they've done to the boys, but for what they've put each of you family members through. It's absolutely disgraceful, and we're not going to forget that. Nobody's going to take this lying down. So whilst they might think that, after time people genuinely forget, it's going away, this isn't going away. Mark my words, this is not going away. They've lit a fire inside of any person that has got morals and empathy in this country. They've lit a fire inside of them, and like you said, this is why they work so hard to discredit you, Tracy, and ultimately try and sabotage what you're doing. Anybody that gets close, You won't mind me saying this. Anybody that supports you seems to get an army of nasty trolls and government agents and infiltrators come after them. But they do this because they know that what you're saying is sincere and it's true. So, I mean, what I think we're going to wrap it up after that. If there's anything else that I've missed that you wanted to go through, obviously feel free to go through it. And also, is the... Are there any? Have you got any live streams that are coming up, or anything that the chat should know about? And what's the best way to stay in touch with you, Tracy, for the people in the chat?
Yeah. Well, what I do is I do my live feeds on Fighting for Justice on Facebook, and then I do obviously share them onto my face on Pagebook. Even though I'm shadow banned everywhere, I'm shadow banned on Twitter. You know, I'm lucky if I get one retweet. It might even be from Steve, who's in here, or Diane, who's in here. You know, because I'm just shadow banned everywhere. But I still keep pushing it out there. So I normally do it on there, and I have got one coming up because I have a message for the government. So government, if you're watching this, tune in on my next video on Fighting for Justice.
They've tried to buffer it again.
Yeah, of course, you know. Of course. I look forward to if they come and knock at my door and say I gave a threat about a tank going through. It wasn't a threat, government. It wasn't a threat, government. It was a promise. If I had a tank, I would come down there happily on my own and blow those gates open. If you want to come to my house and you've got anything to say, then please do so. But just remember, I have a private property with no trespass, so please don't trespass. Otherwise, if I have to ask you twice, it's criminal trespass, yeah? Right.
Tracy, there's just one more question.
Answer this one question.
Go
Sorry,
on.
everyone. Yeah. Remember, yeah, how we was brought up. Yeah, that we're very English, Anglo-Saxons. We was brought up to be brave, just like the Scots were, just like the Welsh. Yeah, that's what's in our blood. They don't care about the bloodshed that our ancestors did because they believed they was doing it for their children and the future generations, for our freedom and to keep us safe. They didn't know it was funded by both sides, yeah? They didn't know that. They believed when they went out there that they was doing it to protect us, yeah? We are no different, right? And we are the grandchildren of those ancestors, and their blood runs through us. They faced their enemy, yeah, and they stopped a lot of that, and they're taken off, weren't they, and sent elsewhere where they fought for us. And that is the blood that is in us. Yeah. Don't fear, because that's what they want you to do. And believe me, there is nothing to fear from those evil, twisted, narcissistic, egotistic psychopaths. Yeah. Nothing to fear. Who class us and as children as nothing but cattle. Just to answer, sorry everyone, just to answer question, I've got a feeling, Lewis P. I wouldn't have anything. I think only one family member did. The others wouldn't have nothing to do. Don't want nothing to do with any institution. Yeah, private. I don't want nothing to do with any of them ever again. But to answer that question, I've got a feeling it's going to be next year in 2021 that they do.
Sorry, is just there was just a quick question from Aunt Sally, fantastic woman, love her very dearly. Where she's asking, when will the documentary be out? Have you got a date for that yet, or is there? I know there's a lot of work to be done on it. Just I know.
Well, it just like us you know before, and I've already mentioned once in this that we come across something else only last night. It's just got bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's not just that. It's about we want to put as much in there as we can, but if you put too much, you're going to sit there. You know, you've seen quite a bit of it. Sit there and think, what the hell have I just watched? Because there's just so much info that is shocking in there that it's, you know, so, and you've got to time it right. Yeah, so at the moment, it's all about timing.
Yeah.
So I can't give a specific date, Aunt Sally, but I'll upload it, and we've got people all over the place ready and willing, waiting for it, and they will send it everywhere, all across in different countries, because you know I'm going to be shadow banned, and just keep share and share and share and share and share when it does come. So I'll let everyone know anyway that it is coming, so that we can get sharing it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I suppose we'll wrap it up for this. I want to thank you, Tracy, honestly, for coming on. I want to thank you to everybody that's been in the chat this evening for taking the time to listen to this. I'd like to encourage you, like I said, please head over to the Facebook pages, YouTube pages. If there's any information that you would like, please contact Tracy or myself. I'd be happy to help in whatever way I can. Obviously, it'd be directing you to Tracy. Like I said, please don't believe, if you're hearing stories from people online, if they're not providing any evidence, please don't take as something as someone says as the gospel, because there's a lot of people out there that have ulterior motives and agendas, and ultimately, unless people are going to provide evidence to what they're saying, then it's just a baseless, vague claim. So please be careful of that. As I said, I know there's a lot of people out there that might not be too keen on me, but please put your personal feelings aside and remember that it's not about me, it's about the boys. So I know there's been some people in here tonight that might not agree with me or might not like me. That's absolutely fine. But the main thing is we get behind this woman and we stand behind the boys as well. I don't care whether you're centre left, whether you're right or whatever. The main thing is that we stand behind this brave, courageous lady and we help her in everything that she needs to do to get justice for those 3 boys. That's exactly what we will be doing forever, how long it takes. I don't care how long it takes. We will be there for Tracy. So, like I said, if you haven't subscribed to Tracy's channels already, the links are in the live chat. I know the mods have been putting it in. I want to say thank you to all the mods that have been in here tonight. There's been some absolutely fantastic mods that have really modded the stream well, and I'd like to thank you for doing that. And I just want to say, please get behind the boys, and please remember that if this has happened to Tracy, this could happen to any single one of us, and it's up to us, the British people, the indigenous people, any human, in fact, to ensure that we look after each other, because the government don't want us in communities. They don't want all of us talking to each other, communicating, building up friendships and networks, because it's what they truly fear. If we all came together, ultimately the political class, they'd be out on their ear. And I think that's what it's going to take for us to gain back control of our country. So I'm going to let Tracy have the last word, and then we're going to log off from there.
Just to say to everyone in the room, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, thank you for your kind comments, and everything else, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for following. It's very much appreciated. Without you lot, people they can shadow ban and ban as much as they like. Without you lot doing what you do, these shows wouldn't get out, the things wouldn't get out about our boys if you didn't share them. When I am out there on the streets, thank you to the people in the room that I can see, that I've walked with and beside out on the streets and continue to do. Aunt Sally, Paul, Eric Heaps, haven't spoken to him for a while, Johnny Retro, just every one of you, Martin, dear Martin, everyone, Sarah, everyone, for your comments and asking questions and joining us tonight. What I will say is please research, because that is the key. I could sit here and I would love to and tell you everything that I've become wise to, that because knowledge is not just power, it is freedom. It is freedom. And I would love to do that for you. I can assist in saying certain things, but if you don't research it yourself, I could just be another person sitting here saying things, and then you become confused if someone says opposite. Because believe me, I've done many lives. Someone else will do a live the next day and say the opposite to what I've said, intentionally, without referring to me, but it's all there, yeah? So just to confuse people on what the truth really is. But you have to research, you have to start, becoming more consciously aware, and learn what's lawful, and learn about their legal realm, so you then know what is lawful. Because even though someone said earlier on that they'd messed with natural law, they haven't. They can't touch natural law, synchronicity, higher consciousness, and everything else. Believe me, they fear it. Yeah. So anyway, everyone, thank you again. I've waffled on.
You've not waffled at all. You've not waffled at all.
I'll say good night. Remember who you are, where you come from. Know thyself, and those people who have eyes to see will see.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Tracy, and once again, thank you to everybody that in the chat that's been in there this evening. Please remember, on your way out, all of the links for Tracy's Facebook and YouTube have been put in the chat by the mods. So please head over to there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest on Justice for Our Boys. Other than that, thank you to everybody that has come on and listened tonight. Take care, and I will be back tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock. I'm not sure who I've got on yet, but we'll be covering a few things as well. So other than that, good night, God bless, take care, and don't ever fear the political class. Good night.
Thank you.